we want to begin with my exclusive interview this morning with President Trump. The commander-in-chief discusses his recent attacks on Senator John McCain, but we begin with how to keep the economic boom going, as well as the Federal Reserve. Mr. President, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Under your administration's policy, we've seen growth in the economy, in jobs, the stock market, but now the rest of the world is slowing. How are you going to keep this elevated growth going?
Well, I just think it's happening. You look at what's going on with respect to China, or deal is coming along very well. We'll see what happens. But we're taking in billions and billions of dollars for the first time ever against China in the form of tariffs. I'm very happy with that, but I think the deal will probably happen. I think they need it very badly. Nobody's ever really seen anything quite like what's happening. Then we did the Mexico and Canada deal, USMCA. That's going very well. I think that it should get approved pretty quickly by Congress because it's a great deal. It's a really great deal. NAFTA was, to me, one of the worst deals I've ever seen as trade. I think the WTO is terrible also, by the way. I think that's a really bad one. But we're doing even better with WTO. We're winning cases all of a sudden because we never won cases. Now we're starting to win cases because they know my attitude. If they don't treat us fairly, we get out. And there's a big difference there. We're doing a good job. We finished up at 3.1 GDP. Everybody, that hasn't been done in 14 years, maybe more than that, but 14 years. And I think we have tremendous momentum right now. And you're right, the world is slowing, but we're not slowing. And frankly, if we didn't have somebody that would raise interest rates and do quantitative tightening, we would have been at over 4 instead of at 3.1.
And the Fed said this week, actually, signaling that we're not going to see any more rate hikes this year. Do you think you influenced that decision partly?
I don't know. I mean, look, I hope I didn't influence, frankly, but it doesn't matter. I don't care if I influenced or not. One thing, I was right. But we would have been over 4 if they didn't do all of the interest rate hikes. And they tightened. I mean, they did $50 billion a month. I said, what are we doing here? And so I'm not, 3.1 may be the best in 14 years. I'm not happy with it. We should have had much higher. And hopefully now won't do the tightening, because with the world going so, off and with a lot of things happening, you don't do tightening at this time. And we'll see what happens. But we have tremendous potential as a country. Our companies are doing phenomenally well. The earnings are great. We have the greatest companies in the world. We're not being treated properly by other countries.
But things are slowing. Things are slowing. So can you keep this growing?
Oh, I think so. I think we can, and I think maybe others can't, but I think we can, absolutely.
On China, you've got officials headed to Beijing this weekend. You said that the tariffs are going to stay in place for a substantial period of time. Is there a snag in these negotiations?
No, not at all. But we have, if you look at technology and the first $50 billion of goods, we want to keep that, and because we need that. We have what's called the chicken tax. You know what that is?
Yes.
On the small vans and trucks and different things, and that's a great thing for us, and that has to do with the automobile industry. That's the best segment. People don't know. We get a 25% tariff on that segment. That's our best segment by far. And yeah, we will absolutely be able to keep it, not only keep it going, I really think we have tremendous potential. The world is going in a little bit the wrong direction, not horribly. I think a lot of people are waiting for the deal with China. I think that's going to have a very big impact, maybe bigger than people know. As to whether or not it makes it, I think it will. I think we're getting very close. That doesn't mean we get there, but I think we're getting very close.
I'm glad that you mentioned the chicken tax, that 25% tariff on European light trucks, because right now the Commerce Department is looking at autos and auto parts and whether or not they pose a national security risk. Do they?
Well, no, what poses a national security risk is our balance sheet. We need a strong balance sheet. Otherwise, you don't have national security. So people are always saying, well, what do cars have to do with national security? When Germany is sending cars and we virtually don't tax them, and yet they won't accept our cars, namely the European Union, which frankly treats us as badly as China. The numbers are just smaller by a lot. But, we lost over the course of the last 5, 6, 7 years $150 billion a year with the European Union. They don't take our product. They tax us tremendously. They tariff us tremendously. Almost every country has taken advantage of the United States, and we're straightening it out.
Yeah, but if you slap more tariffs, if you slap tariffs on auto and auto imports, doesn't that affect the global stream of goods? Doesn't it slow down the economy? It's expensive.
It does, but you know what it does? I'll tell you what the end game is. They'll build their plants in the United States, and they have no tariffs.
Yeah, but what if the Europeans come back to you and say, Mr. President, let's go to 0%. Let's go to no tariffs. Are you willing to give up that 25% tariff on light trucks?
No, because a Chevrolet will never sell like a Mercedes sells here. They've offered me that. They said, oh, I have an idea. We'll go, no. Well, the problem is that the Chevrolet will never be accepted in Europe like the Mercedes is accepted here. So it's not a good deal. I wouldn't do that deal. They've offered me that deal.
So you wouldn't do zero tariffs with...
I would do it for certain products, but I wouldn't do it for cars because they have BMW, they have Mercedes, they have a lot of very good cars that come in. And they make them here. I want them to make them here. Instead of making them over there, make them here. If you're going to sell them to the Americans, make them here.
You mentioned USMCA. A lot of Democrats have said to me, I'm not going to vote for it in its current form. Do you have a plan B if it doesn't pass?
Maybe you go pre-NAFTA. NAFTA is one of the worst deals ever made, one of the worst trade deals ever made, probably the worst. And I do include WTO. WTO gave us China in its current form. They're considered, you know, in WTO a developing nation. We put an end, you know, we've let them know we're not going to stand for that. We let the folks over at the World Trade Organization know we're not going to stand for that. But so think of it, China, India, these are all considered developing nations. We're not a developing nation. They have a big advantage over us. Why didn't people come out strongly against that in past administrations? They should have. That's a tremendous advantage. We are not allowing that to happen. We've advised them that we are not going to stand for that.
Let me ask you about social media. You said that many platforms censor conservative speech. You have Congressman Devin Nunes suing Twitter for the same reason. What, if any, regulation do you want to see? How do you want this to end?
Well, I hate the concept of regulation on media, but it's very unfair. You talk about the word collusion. The collusion between the Democrats and these people, it's ridiculous. It's hard to believe I won. If you think about it, I had Facebook, Google, Twitter, everybody against me. I have the media's almost totally against me, and yet I won. 306 to 223. People can't even believe it. I won because I'm able to get the word out through my social media because I have great social media. But I'll tell you, it's much tougher than it should be. I deal with Twitter. It's not right the way they do it. I know exactly what they're doing. They take people off my account. They make it very hard for people to join. I had a time very recently ago where I was picking up hundreds of thousands of people in a very short period of time. Now when I pick up, and I guess I have way over 100 million on the different platforms added up, way over 100 million, but it gives me a voice because it's a corrupt media. You know, I call it fake media, but it's fake and corrupt.
Do you want to break those companies
up? And the good news is you understand that, and I'm not talking about you, by the way, but you know that better than anybody. 93% negative news, and I think it's worse than that.
Do you want to break these companies up? This is one thing Ted Cruz and Elizabeth Warren agree on.
I don't like the concept of it. I really would like everybody to be free, but they don't treat us the same way as they treat liberal Democrats and others. Because the Democrats actually are becoming a far-left party. I mean, they're becoming a radical party. You look at what they want to do with the Supreme Court. You look at what they want to do with the voting age. Where did that come all of a sudden? The voting age at 16. They're becoming radical. They are radicalized. You look at this Green New Deal. It's the most preposterous thing. Now, I don't want to knock it too much right now because I really hope they keep going forward with it. You know, frankly, because I think it's going to be very easy to beat. I
want to get back to the 2020 in a second, but I got to ask you about the news of the week. You spent a good portion of your time in Ohio the other day trashing John McCain. Senator John McCain is dead. Why are you doing this?
So it's not a good portion of my time. It's a very small portion. But if you realize about 3 days ago it came out that his main person gave to the FBI the fake news dossier. It was a fake, it was a fraud, it was paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. They gave it to John McCain, who gave it to the FBI for very evil purposes. That's not good. And the other thing, he voted against repeal and replace. Now, he's been campaigning for years for repeal and replace. I'm not a fan. After all of this time, think of this. Repeal and replace. We would have had great health care.
But, Mr. President, he's dead. He can't punch back. I know you punch back, but he's dead.
I don't talk about it. People ask me the question. I didn't bring this up. You just brought it up. You asked the question.
Well, you talked about it this week.
You asked me the question. When I went out yesterday to the scrum, they asked me the question. When they asked me the question, I answered the question. But you people bring it up. I don't bring it up. I'm not a fan. He was horrible what he did with repeal and replace. It was what he did to the Republican Party and to the nation and to sick people that could have had great health care was not good. So I'm not a fan of John McCain, and that's fine.
Do you feel a responsibility as president to bring the nation together?
I do, and I think I am in a certain way bringing it together. I can tell you that a big portion of this nation is united like it's never been united before. You look at our economy, you look at jobs, you look at African American, the lowest in the history of our country, unemployment numbers, the best numbers they've ever had.
But that's what I'm saying.
Hispanic, you look at Asian, you look at women, the best in 65 years, best numbers in 65 years. I think I am bringing it together. I think I'm bringing it together.
Not by talking about John McCain.
I just said, you brought up a question, Maria. I didn't bring it up. I didn't mention John McCain until you asked me a question about John McCain. Now, I could say I have no comment, but that's not me. But you shouldn't have brought it up. Actually, I thought you weren't supposed to bring it up, but that's okay. You know, fake news every once in a while.
It's not fake news. You just told me why you have an issue with him. It's real news.
A very serious issue. He handed something to the FBI on me. He knew it was a fake. He handed it to the FBI. That's an issue.
And now we're going to get
repeal and replace of Obamacare. He campaigned for years. That's an issue. But I didn't bring it up, Maria. You did.
We live in a really nightmare. We live in a really nightmare.